Back, and this is News Tech. Thank you indeed so much for keeping it KBC Channel 1. And on this second hour, of course, we have a truce that actually yesterday business was as usual in various towns where we witnessed a lot of demonstrations. And something queer always happens. If you look at all the maandamanos that we've had, look at the Kondele one, look at the one here in Nairobi, Mathare, looking at Njenga, looking at Kibra as well, especially in the slums. That is where we get all the heat or a lot of damages, and that is why we have decided that we are going deep inside, and that is why we are hosting the MCA for Njenga ward right here in the capital Nairobi, Honorable Francis Kimondo Kiragu. Karibu sana mheshimiwa.
Asante sana.
And before we delve much into the discussion on as why so many youths, and especially in the slums, are being used for both good reasons, if you ask me, for both good reasons and also bad reasons as well. But joining me again is Honorable Francis Kimondo Kiragu, who is the MCA, Njenga ward. If you look at Kondele, Kibra, Njenga, and also Mathare, youths from these informal settlements have been used in demonstrations over and over again, not only in this year, and also in 2017, and sadly in the year 2007, where the country was in the brink of anarchy. But all said and done, a lot of youths from the informal settlements are being used by politicians to sometimes cause mayhem. But that is not the only thing that we will be talking about. We will be talking about the truce. And beginning with the truce itself, the president and former premier, they have agreed on putting the things on the table, everything on the table, so that it may be discussed. And Parliament on both sides have already started the process. And unfortunately for Wanjiku, the issue that came first in terms of the interventions that were made by the two leaders is not touching on anything on cost of living. We started out on IEBC, and that is now has been the topic of discussion. Mheshimiwa.
I believe there is a hidden agenda in this game. And if at all we can really be real representatives of Wanjiku, the first agenda on the table ought to have been the cost of living. Because that's what made Wanjiku to be on the roads demonstrating for the schedule after climatic changes. Everything became very hard and very difficult for the local Kenyans, and that's why they had to go for the maandamano. So to me, I believe the two good leaders, they are not really being good and fair to us as the Wanjiku. Because if at all they'll have a dialogue, we even need those real Wanjikus on the ground for the same kind of a discussion. Because you are representing me, but still my voice, that one of Wanjiku really matters on that table. So I believe as they proceed, how I wish they can put a certain vacuum for the Wanjiku representatives who can actually speak of that person on the ground, rather than their readers, of whom I believe in a way they know their problems, but they have never felt the strength or the pain in it.
Yes, and for avoidance of doubt, you are an independently elected legislator. Which side do you lean on? The government or the Azimio?
I like to be neutral, because I'm an interest of the people, and they elected me with a purpose to represent them. So wherever I go, I always move with the motive of my people. What are really my people in need of? If they're in need of this and the government is supporting this, I'll be there for them. If Azimio is opposing this because of a logical reason, I'll always go by that cause. That's what Mwananchi sent me to do for him or her.
And why do you always think that these mandamanos, the informal settlements, is where a lot of youths are from, and that is where actually we find a lot of animosity? A church was burned, a mosque was burned, a school was burned, all in one area.
Yeah, I believe that a straightforward answer, this is where unemployment really counts. This is where we have got most of the idlers. This is where people, we can say they are less privileged, and they have got no job opportunities, neither do they secure anything that they cannot be doing for a day-to-day living. Most of them are idlers. So once they call for this maandamano, they are 100% sure uyo jamaa ako kwa kijiji yako idle, doing nothing. And in fact, from the far look of it, ukiangalia watu si ati sana they are not interested in the maandamano. They have got hidden agendas behind maandamano. That's why you have already heard of very many rooting in the areas around Muhidi Mweusi, the one that is located in Tasia. That's why you have heard of a lot of looting in Pipeline in the recent nini maandamano ya Monday. Cause watu wengi wako jobless, so they have gone, they call it amboka ama sort of a job. So ile maandamano ikitokelezea, they get that opportunity. It's an open opportunity for them to loot and get something of which, as I say, it's not out of their own will. It's out of depression and suppression by life. Yeah.
In the same light, Mheshimiwa, looking at Njenga, for example, and I'm quite sure that whatever you've said really resonates with a lot of Kenyans. The rate of unemployment, and especially in informal settlement, is too high.
Very true.
As a leader, these are the same youths who are going to loot. Basically, there is no maandamanos that in Kenya we've held peacefully, even back in the days. So in the same light, as a leader, or as part of the leaders from your region, what are you doing to ensure that these youths are not used for bad intentions? Because this is a fertile breeding ground for politicians to ask youths to do anything they want to do.
Yeah, we can only start to fix things from where they are. One, we can 100% agree most of the youths in our villages are dropouts. Most of the youths in our areas they are just but a substance of lack of education, lack of employment, so they are just there to stay. They are just there for hand-to-mouth works. So meaning wherever they wake up and you make sure that you terminate whatever they have been doing, because most of these Mondays and Thursdays, it means they are not doing anything. They'll have to look for that thing that can really facilitate for the living of that particular day. Meaning that person they'll meet on there, they'll have to rob him or even pokonya him the phone he has, the cash he has in his pocket to make a living for the particular day. Because they have got this kind of hustling whereby they get their daily bread, not somewhere that they are employed, not somewhere that they are starting tomorrow they'll get. They wake up like bats just to go and look for somewhere to get something to eat for the day, waiting upon God to see them through tomorrow. That has been the biggest issue as to why our youths are really being used by politicians. And little do they know they are just being endangered and putting their lives in so much danger.
And as a leader, youth are idle in your ward, and because of a number of issues. What are some of the interventions as a leader?
As I've told you
the moment that you start the mandamanos or informal settlements, we see a lot of damage, even to all the vibandas that are there. Some are actually from all these business people there do not come from somewhere far. They are people who
they're just within that locality.
Yes.
So meaning we can only, the way I've told you before, we can only start by empowering those youth. We can only educate them. We can only show them this is the right direction and this is the right way to go.
Have you tried it yourself?
Yeah, I've already done it. In the fact, I've got some few boys whom I've already empowered with mkokotenis. I've got few ladies and also women whom I'm also empowering with small projects. Though they won't cost me much, but the little cash I'll give to that trade or even that gentleman, it will really push him for an amount that until you want to feel it cannot do anything until. But to him, they have got very brilliant ideas. Out of that big pressure from life, you can even forward some even 500 shillings, and they start the Madiz is selling around the hawking along Mombasa. In fact, I've got over 10 to 20 hawkers whom I myself as Kimondo have empowered. Nikona kina mama wanauza the vendors who sell cakes with buckets. In fact, I will surprise you today that I gave them a capital of 600 shillings, 500 shillings, and they start a living. At the end of the day, they'll still earn 200, 300, of which to that villager, until to one account not money, but to them, it's a living. Even to an equivalent of even that money being subjected to paying a rent of 2,000, 1,500, because you can even get a room there for 1,000 to 2,000 or even 2,500, though it's a mabati house. So we just need to put something that can really add value to those youths. In fact, after speaking to most of them, because I'm fond of speaking to them, sharing, I really show them this is the right direction. My people, let's not spoil our own community. And that's why you had in the whole of Mukuru kwa Njenga, as they bypassed all those areas, they didn't do a lot of things because we are in good connectivity with those boys and girls, and we really agreed tusiharibu mtaa yetu. Goja maandamano ifanywe kwa amani, lakini tusiharibu area yetu. But other areas, I won't talk, they really misbehaved, and they really had a lot of mayhem here and there. But for my area, I can actually attestify warijaribu kidogo.
All right. And let's look at owning up, because whatever you're doing and whatever you say you are doing, all the leaders are not doing that. We have the MPs, we have the MCAs as well, who are on the ground, and especially in your ward, you are on the ground, and you have talked about what exactly you're doing. But unfortunately, our leaders are not doing that, and they are not owning up, because at the end of the day, these youths are being incited by the same leaders we put in place. And unfortunately, the government itself also has also had the share of the blame because of how the police have been handling the whole situation. People are not owning up on both sides. And we can see that also in the slums, nobody would want to own up. Either the police on how they conduct themselves, or even the demonstrators and the looters as well. So we have leaders who can do the same thing you're doing, speaking to these people.
I believe we have been having two directions, whereby some believe if at all we are doing this because we are right, the other side ought not to rectify us. But I believe we own our own people. They voted for us. We have to value them. We have to treasure the little things, some of the big things they are doing, and we are there to protect their businesses as well as their lives. So we want to be in the front line, pushing even a conversation with even the policemen. Though in a way, because I witnessed the recent maandamano in my ward, in my constituency, it was really a mess. Because the kind of pressure wananchi are using, the police force has also to fight back. And you can't fight back smoothly. You see this person targeting you with a stone, even getting that stamina to chase you, to chase a police in a uniform. You can imagine the scenario. So I believe we need to negotiate, because the way we were moving, I don't think it was the right direction. Surely, even if our people, most of our people didn't die, but they ended up being injured. They ended up losing job opportunities, because there are some people who really messed with you wherever they used to the coma. There are some hotels that were damaged. There are some areas that were completely, that really perished. So we need to come up with a resolution whereby in future we can have those peaceful demonstrations where our people are there to address their grievances, not taking an advantage or control measures. Tunaenda maandamano. Who can be these people? The way we do campaigns. As we campaign, we have got security teams. Meaning, those boys that want to come to control or take over the meeting, they'll be controlled. The same way, I believe before we do these demos, we need to have a certain machinery from the programmers of that maandamano, whereby they can be controlling their own maandamano, so that we can manage the situation. Hao wanaiba wanakatazwa, hao wanapora watu wanakatazwa, hao wanavandalize vibanda za watu, maduka za watu, tukue na security ya kuwashunga. Meaning, if we mean we are moving from here to a certain place, kwa hiyo area yote tuko na security along that road. I think that one, though it's quite difficult and quite expensive, it can be as well manageable, because we can only use our own people, because we can't use the men in uniform. Because it will be a fighting, it will be a battlefield.
Indeed, I totally concur. It's quite an elaborate plan. But looking at how the leaders have conducted themselves, I remember the minority leader, Opio Wandai, and several other leaders, and also protesters, over 200 of them, they were arrested. And yesterday, being part of the truce, is that all the leaders, the charges were dropped, and all the demonstrators, there were also charges have been dropped by the Director of Public Prosecutions. Well, I saw somewhere in the tabloids where somebody is arguing, among those people who were arrested demonstrating, some of them were arrested looting property or destroying property, and now you've let these people go. How or who will be accountable for all this? Do you believe that the leaders in these areas where we get a lot of nastiness and a lot of violence, should they be held to account?
I believe in a way it's quite tricky. We are in a very, I don't know what to call it, but in a very certain kind of a situation whereby we are in a healing process, and it's an emergency case here. So we can forego some of the few things, but all I could just kind of request our government, why doesn't it look onto the real scenarios of those affected people? Like the supermarket that was looted, Naskia, what do you call it, Muidimousi in Tasia, and the rest of the businessmen who are looted, instead of just letting escort free those who perpetrated the stealing, we can forgive them, but for those people they won't forget. We can forgive them and let them go, but for those loans that those people are taken, they still have to pay. So when shall we add this kind of pain to those affected people? We can only lay a dialogue with the areas that those maandamano were conducted. We look at them afresh, we set a certain committee to look forth upon those affected, and we lay down way forward love, repaying them. Because wali affectiwa baada ya hiyo maandamano. Kama siyo maandamano hawagepata. The way we deal with disaster, I don't know how to put it, but we can still put it as a sort of a disaster. Because the person,
a number of Kenyans would feel that, Mheshimiwa, if at all Njenga, you are the one who has incited people, I think you should be held to account. Because at the end of the day, if at all anything is destroyed, and you are the one who maybe talk to your people, then a leader should be held to account.
But I can actually tell you, my good friend, not in this country that one will happen. We can only negotiate from the reality of it. The linear perspective is one. Let that person be compensated. Because if we try to retry from where it started, the hell will just start breaking loose.
Yeah, because you see Mandamanos of our guy has been arrested.
Yeah.
All right. Also, Kenya has been viewed as a beacon of democracy and stability in the East African region and Africa as a whole, and has a lot of admirers even in the international scene.
Very true.
We saw some of the hardline stands. I remember part of government, even leaders, including the deputy president, talked about, yes, indeed, we can have a roundtable discussion with the opposition, but on how former premier can exit the political scene. And I remember the Azimio now saying, we also don't want the handshake. We want all these A, B, C, D, and we want them done now. The international community came, of course, some bashing from the opposition. Where were you? Why are you not speaking about this? But they have played a key role in establishing a truce between the two leaders, just to underscore how Kenya is important in the region, and how when we sneeze, a lot of African countries also get the cold, including the East Africa region. I would like you to touch on the international players and our brothers and sisters from the West.
So I believe they did a good and a commendable job. For true, we needed a dialogue. As much as we are not talking about either the handshake, the way they are putting it, but peace and stability of this country is more important than any kind of a leader in this country. So I believe the common interest was one. Common mwananchi agendas to be laid on the table. The happenings that have always made this to resort after elections, I think this is the highest time we wanna lay them down and look at them collectively with Azimio and also the government side. And we come up with a resolution whereby in future the same will be tamed as early as before elections, because we want to not like this kind of a repetition to be redone again. I hope you have seen the way things have gone just in a matter of a few weeks. Things are not okay. Kenyans are in shake. Businesses are shaking. Everybody is awake. There is a wake-up call to everybody. Hakuna amani. Haujui kesho utaamuka aje. You can even meet with those guys as they demonstrate with a very high speed. Mugongane na wao. So there are very many things that we have to look at. All I can say, wamefanya kazi nzuri na waendelee na hiyo maneno na saa hii let them not do it halfway. let the cake be fully baked. Tumalize hii maneno ya siasa vile itakuwa ikifanywa, tumalize mambo ya uchaguzi ikisha vile itakuwa inafanywa, na tumalize hii dialogue so that we can know the bitter truth. Is it the government which is on Mwananchi's shoulders, ama there is something even the opposition can have a platform whereby it can be contributing. You are the government, but it doesn't mean because you are the government, it can be there to advise you. It can be there to show you the way. We have a certain character whereby we can be sharing between the opposition and the government, walking in the same path for the goodness of common Mwananchi. And for the international bodies to be there as patrons to watch and also give guidance for a better and a brighter future to Kenyans. It can be better. We start a better chance because we have always been at the forehead as the Democrats. So what is this something literal after elections which really comes and really spills everything to go haywire, to go on the other side? So we need to have a new look on it.
Okay. And of course, the president talked about bipartisan parliamentary committee to work through concerns over the electoral process. And I think that is exactly what has taken precedent over Wanjiko's demands as well, because Wanjiko wants the high cost of living to be brought down. But looking at what some of the leaders are talking about, of course, when it comes to parliament, some have argued that because of tyranny of numbers, UDA having the majority, they might have their own way. Do you think that could be the case?
In a way, but all I believe is one. As these people were in Mombasa in the recent whatever, there is a time, I don't know whether it's Babawino who led the demonstration in Mombasa when the Wabunges were there. Do you remember that particular time?
During the induction?
During the induction. Because it was their interest. True?
Yes.
There was no Azimio, there was no UDA, there was no what? It was Wambunge. So onto this issue about the peace of this country and the way forward, our prayer would only be one to our own, our Heshimiwas. Kindly remember those people who voted you in to represent them. Set aside your differences, set aside about the political affiliation, and put forth the interest of common Wanjiko. And they speak with one voice about the cost of living, the future of this country, without indulging in Azimio or even the UDA. I think with the talk of it, if at all, and I believe our president was very lenient and sincere on it, we can really come up with a resolution. Because we shall not talk about UDA. Ni ile kitu Wanjiko anataka mbunge wake amrepresent na mwakilishe pale bungeni. Si mambo na chama frani, kabila frani. Because you never know about 2027, wewe ulikuwa UDA, utakuwa Azimio. Yule alikuwa Wiper, atakuwa kule kwingine. So let us come with something forward, yenye itatupeleka mbele na yenye itatuguide for the rest of the coming years. Na to the year supplies, next time you never know. Huyo mbunge ataweza kuwa Mwananchi. So vile ungetaka kutawaliwa, kindly show us the way and guide us the way forward.
All right. You're also a Nairobi leader, and some of the issues that Azimio have brought on the table is that they would want the subsidies back. Even the World Bank itself has agreed that mostly subsidies are untenable, they're unsustainable, and they hurt the economy. I would like you to chip in that.
So I would like us to agree on one thing. After the hardships, after the rise of the petroleum, everything dynamically shifted in all the countries. So for the time being, we can actually say the child is growing. Let's give him time for him to start walking by himself. So the government is on you. Why don't we give it time as we follow keenly and advisably on it, and we see maybe come next year the point at which we can, because calendar, even if we are more today, it can't happen. Where shall we get all this money? If at all we can manage, because we don't have enough money. So if we add on all those things, where can we really get that money from? So if at all we can just, we can only give the government time to articulate the things and the many promises they promised.
And on a sad note, last week the country and a ward lost a civic leader an MCA was murdered when he was stabbed. And I remember yesterday in one of the pressers, Kotu Secretary General, Francis Atuoli, said that now the MCAs, our leaders, need security because they are vulnerable. You are more vulnerable than I am.
Very true.
I would like to get to pick your mind on that.
Yeah, I think MCA's security is paramount. In fact, they are more endangered even than the MPs. Why? They are the people who are living with Mwananchi there on the ground. And remember, you still have got your own opposition in the same ground that you are elected. And in fact, you meet with those people on a daily basis. And actually, we can actually speak on a good note. You can't move away from your people. So meaning, if you're elected in this world, you are just hailing from this world. You just live there. Whereby even for the MP, in a way, it's not a must for him to be living in that world. And that's a fact,
yes.
So for the MCAs, they are more endangered. So all I can say, it's very advisable. If at all they can be equipped with firearms, or else they can be given security personnel, whichever that can be cheaper.
I like the way you've talked about it being a little bit cheaper, because that was the next point I was headed. Because at the end of the day, the wage bill is choking the country. And if we talk about, we have around 1,440 MCAs in the country. If we even give them just 2 police officers, then we can look at the figures and know that the wage bill will not be tenable. And we have been having issues, including the CAS's appointments as well.
So for me, I would be very quick in making the decision. We can only make sure that we arm the MCAs with the firearms. They have got the licenses, and we make sure as soon as they are elected, they get their firearms, and they have got corrective use of it. They just go through the training, and they are shown the way to use them, and they are shown the way where and where not to. And I believe that one can be a little bit cheaper and affordable, and can actually be met along the country.
Let's go back to Njenga. And the head of state said in all the informal settlements, of course, the affordable housing scheme, which has been scaled over to all the counties as well. And informal settlements are bound to benefit largely, and especially the young men and women we are talking about being jobless. The head of state talked about them being integrated into that system. Either they be the Korogas there, the Mafundis there, and one of the places to benefit will be in Njenga.
Very true, but so unfortunate that they started with an area they call Lode A. They started with a place they call Mukuru Kwaruben. So for us, our turn has not yet been launched, but we are still waiting for the same. So I can't talk anything in kind of employment to my people. I can't talk of my people the data being taken. So we are still but eagerly waiting. In fact, I can actually recommend the president and appreciate him for the well done proposal. And it will really go with that less privileged people. Because for the first time in this country, they will have a chance to own a house or live in an affordable, decent home. And in real sense, the way he did put the terms, you'll just be paying as if you are paying the rent. Because if at all they are told to pay for the deposit, they can manage. If at all they are told it's the mortgage way, the way the banks do, you have to deposit something, and they don't have. So I believe it will really be beneficial to the good people in Mukuru, to the good people in other slums. It can really be beneficial to them.
All right.
As per me.
I believe that is your camera. I know we are about 6 months since you were sworn in as civic leaders. And I'm quite sure the Wanjiko in Mukuru would like to hear what you've been able to do in the short period that you'd be in office, and more specifically, kindly touch on what you're doing for the youth, because at the end of the day, we have seen that these streets are breeding ground for politicians to use them in any way that I want to use them.
So on my side, I'm very grateful, because my people have really been supportive to me, and the little kind of empowerment I've actually been offering to them. I've already told you I've been having some few mkokotenis, I've been having women whom I've actually empowered with cake selling, some madizi selling, and I've actually had at least I think out of my list I've got over 25 people whom I've really tried to network and connect in different companies and institutions, searching for the job from personal level. Natembea now one-on-one. And I'm not tired of it. Nasi tarara, the way I promised my people, I won't sleep, neither shall I rest, till I make sure the livelihoods of those people who elected me, I'll make sure I'll have something they can really count on after the 5 years. All I promised them is one. Lazima maisha ya Njenga itabadilika. Lazima nitahakikisha hata kama sitamaliza umaskini, but nitapunguza umaskini pale Mukuru kwa Njenga. Hata kama sita make sure kila mtu ameingia shule. In fact, I've really had very tedious 3 months. Nikitoa watoto kwa manyumba, and everybody in Mukuru kwa Njenga knows. Watoto nimejaribu kutafuta sponsor in Meru, nimetafuta well wishers, nimetafuta even good friends and even companies surrounding my area, na wameshikiria hawa watoto wetu, whereby zile basari tulipewa 600 niliwapatia free, na nikazigawa kwa kila mtu na kila kabila openly and during the day. In fact, for the first time, basari zilipeanwa bila kupigana, zilipeanwa bila kukanyangana, na zilipeanwa kwa kila mtu.
Okay, and there's also the issue of crime. It's also a breeding ground for crime, informal settlements. Apologies to use that word.
Thank you.
But it is a fact that they form breeding grounds for hardened criminals. What are you doing in terms of ensuring that a lot of you do not slide?
So with me, I've got a very good rapport with the area administrators, especially the area chief, the area ACC, the area DO, and we have been working even with the area policemen. And all we have been doing, we know those changadens, we know who has been selling bangi, we know who has been selling this and the other drugs. We have actually harmonized the situation, calling those people on board. And actually before they are arrested, they have always been warned. Wachana na hii mambo ya kuuza shanga, tumesikia unauza mihadarati, kindly don't spoil our kids. Before even they do the arrest. If at all they don't concur with that, with me they know very well. Na peanaga ruhusa bele ya chief, huyo mwenye tulimkanya asiuze shanga na anauza, akishikwa asiniite. Huyo kijana tumemkanya mambo ya kuharibu vijana wetu na madawa za kulevya na bangi, ukishikwa usiniite. And that has always been my stand. 2, we have also been lighting the area. County haikuwa vizuri, lakini sasa imerudi back to normal. Matatu tumeanza kuziakisha each and every area, and we are looking forward. Hii mwezi ikiisha, every place in Mukuru kwa Njenga will be daylight late at night. Hiyo pia itapunguza to reduce crime, na pia ku-engage our vijana wetu kwa constructive things that they can be doing. 2, I've already promised the area youth, come term 2, I'll be offering empowerment bursaries to them. For those ones who would like short-term courses, they'll get that kind of a sponsorship. For those who would like that kind of shortcut, maybe this kind of driving, this kind of short-term, like maybe like babbling, I'll actually pay them using the bursaries. And they are meant for even for those short-term courses. So they'll have that avenue and opportunity to enjoy, even if they don't have those secondary school kids.
You mentioned the short courses because the short courses could be a game changer. Driving, work, saloonist, and such kind of things.
And also for the boda guys who are always arrested on daily basis out of negligence. They don't have the license, they don't have the insurance. So we agreed with them. Come term 2, nitawalipia hiyo riding cost, then wangangane na mabe insurance.
Let me give you 1 minute for your closing statement.
Yangu ya mwisho ya kufunga ni washukuru sana Njenga kukuwa na confidence na mimi, kunishagua nikiwa independent MCA, na waambia asanteni sana, Mungu awabariki, na kazi tutaendelea kuifanya, na tudumishe amani na upendo, na mbele iko sawa.
Thank you so much. That has been Honorable Francis Kimondo Kiragu, who is the MCA for Njenga ward. There we have been looking at a number of issues, and mostly when you talk about informal settlement, we have seen cases in Kondele, we've seen in Kibera, we've seen in Kawangware, we've seen also in Madare, where you find this youth being used by politicians for their negative gains. Indeed, that's where we put a cap. It's about 5 minutes to the top of the hour. My name is Bentroy Njue. Thank you indeed so much for joining us on this segment, and I'm now giving the baton to the Swahili desk with Kurunzi Mashinani and Tamrini. Thank you so much. Let's continue this conversation on our socials.